Krug from BMS.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me preface this by saying that most of my comments are going to revolve around PD-1 inhibitors, the checkpoint inhibitors, mainly because those are the drugs that have already been approved. And I think that really has brought this topic of value to the forefront right now. You saw the long list of approvals for these drugs that occurred even just in the last year. I think for me to best relay my own personal perspective on the value of these drugs, I will give you just a little bit of my own personal background. I just started at Bristol Myers-Squibb about 6 or 7 months ago, and prior to that, I worked as a thoracic oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering for 15 years. And so during that period of time, during my career there, I really saw a huge evolution in the way that patients with lung cancer were treated. There was such a dramatic change. When I finished my fellowship training, really the only treatment available for patients with advanced lung cancer was chemotherapy. And as you know, chemotherapy really has a limited effect on the patient's survival, and of course has some toxicities associated with it. It was right during that period of time, though, I was actually involved with the phase 1 trial of ZD1839, which then became IRESA. And so I was fortunate enough to see the evolution of targeted therapies and the whole concept of molecular analysis, the use of EGFR testing to identify patients who would best benefit from targeted therapies. But it became clear that there was reaching some plateau with regards to those targeted therapies because only about 20% of patients were being found who had actionable mutations for which these targeted therapies were available, and there was really a need for a treatment that would be available for a broader group of patients. And then, of course, came along these immunotherapies such as the CTLA-4 and PD-1 inhibitors. I actually did trials with vaccines for small cell lung cancer and mesothelioma for many years, and there was always a lot of naysayers out there about the effects of immunotherapies for lung cancer. But then the data came out showing that these drugs could actually improve survival in patients with lung cancer, and I think it really changed the paradigm. And I think what was most impressive was the fact that these responses were so durable, and patients were having much more long-term benefit, and that is really where the value is. And not only that, but overall, although, as was mentioned, there are certainly various different side effects that need to be monitored for very carefully. Overall, I think the toxicities are relatively manageable and in many ways somewhat easier to tolerate than some of the chemotherapy side effects. And so patients were living longer and they were feeling better during that period of time. And so I think, from a viewpoint of a thoracic oncologist, these new treatments really offered a completely new paradigm and promise, and really transformed the field. And of course, these drugs are effective in other diseases as well. Melanoma, of course, kidney cancer. We've seen some recent data now with head and neck cancer too. So lymphomas. So it's really quite amazing how broad it is. And I think it's just the beginning too. I think would be foolish to think that we don't have a lot of work to do. There are still a lot of patients who we need to find better treatments for. And of course, there's a lot of work on combinations with immunotherapies in this regard and so forth. And so these issues of cost are going to have to be addressed. But I think that we need to be sure that we just create an environment where this innovation and path forward can be fostered.